Want to give the best gifts without breaking the bank? At Walmart, you'll find something for everyone on your list, whether they've been naughty or nice. We don't just have everything for the holidays, we have the perfect thing for yours.
Hey, Brad, you know how Nationwide is more than an insurance company?
Yeah, they're one of America's largest financial services companies.
We get that in a song like business, life, retirement.
Or Nationwide's there to protect.
I'm kind of the jingle guy.
Not sure I agree with that.
Well, I'm not sure I like your hat.
Well, it would never fit on you.
Products issued by Nationwide Life Insurance Company or Nationwide Life and Annuity Insurance Company. The general distributor for variable products is Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
Distractions happen. So the new fully electric Volvo EX90 comes with a 2-sensor driver understanding system designed to help prevent distractions and keep you focused. Reserve yours today. Visit volvocars.com/US.
This episode is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's basketball season, baby. That means when you're off the clock, away from the grind, you and your buddies can enjoy as much on-court action as you want. Even better when you crack open a Michelob Ultra to help celebrate all those slam dunks. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. To find out where to order Ultra near you, visit MichelobUltra.com and click Find Product. LDA 21 and up.
Of those three, who's the heir apparent to Peter Vermes? Those three, and we get 3 more years of Vermes.
Benny.
Not Ilya?
No. Ilya's too nice.
Yep, he'd be a good assistant coach.
I can't see Ilya going, damn it, you need to move the ball faster. No, move, I can't see him doing that.
Was that your Spanish accent?
Oh, I was thinking it was German. It's like, for me, it's German? What?
Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
Back at it again in 2022. A new season, season 5 of the Shades of Blue Soccer Show. Gentlemen, how are you? We got a full Zoom here today. What's up, all of you? Everyone try to speak at once. We'll see what happens.
It's a crowded house.
Yay!
It's gonna happen,
Yeah, I know, but see, we're on a new level this year. We're recording on different channels. It's new. Everything is going to be sounding good. So let's start off this new season the right way. There's so much going on in the world right now, but we're going to start off the right way. We are the Blue Testament. This is the Shades of Blue Soccer Show. There are all 5 of us, the original crew here. I myself am Cody Bradley. Robert Russert is here, and Thad Bell is here. Our new addition of David is here, and Chad is here, and we're just gonna see what happens to start the year. There's so much to talk about. We had to get the whole team.
So much to complain about. Oh, sorry.
Bob is not in the best mood. I tried to get everyone going, and he was like, I was like, there's so much to talk about. He's like, well, it's all bad, so I guess we're not gonna get a laugh from Robert today.
I'm positive.
And David just dropped a very depressing stat right before we begin here, but so yeah, we've got here. Let's just run through. We've got Pulido injury. We've got Gadi Kinda, just had knee surgery. He should be out for a while. The Superdraft just happened. Report today about Graham Zusi potentially returning. Is Graham Zusi among a list of all of the names that Vermes has been recently teasing about new signings coming? And Benny Feilhaber is Paulo Nagamura's successor for SKCII. I love it. But let's start off with the lead here, of course. Alan Pulido is out for the entire season. After having a day to dissect it, it doesn't even feel all that different. We were without him all year last year, weren't we? Did he even play last year? I can't remember.
He barely played, man. He was not noticeable.
Harsh. I mean, he definitely missed a lot of time, but I feel like he played. He scored a handful of goals. I don't know. I mean, there were some PKs in there.
How many players was he outscored by on Sporting?
At least 2.
Yeah, 2, maybe 3. Did Kyrie outscore him?
No, there's no way.
No, not even a little bit.
8. Did Pulido get 8 last year?
Pulido bagged 8.
Okay. Shelton got 6, maybe.
David, what was the?
I'm thinking assists, I guess.
David, what was the stat that you just dropped here before we started?
We have won more playoff games with Kyrie Shelton than we have with Alan Pulido.
It's depressing, but it's also like, all right, well, hey, what are we even worried about then? Who needs him? Who needs our $10 million striker?
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I'm not going to endorse Sheldon as the starter, but that there is something to it, right? They were very good in 2018. They're pretty good in 2021 with Shelton in there a lot. So
Do we know if Cheesebro listens to the pod? Because I'll go all in on Kyrie just to give that poor guy a attack.
I'm fairly certain he does.
Cheese bro. Wait, do you call him cheese bro too, or is that a reference to us calling him that in the past?
I don't know that there's any other way to pronounce it.
See, that's what I'm saying. Every time I read that name, I read it cheese bro in my head. I never say it out loud until we get on this podcast, but every time I read it, I see cheese bro.
And what's it supposed to be?
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. He explained it to us at one point in a comment, and apologies that I don't recall what the story was. Something like a nickname he got in college or high school or something, and he just keeps it going.
Oh, okay.
The only thing else it could be would be Chaz bro. And
yeah, that doesn't work.
Chazebro.
Okay, so one aspect of the Pulido injury I want to talk about is that, again, the continued theme of it being cryptic about this injury. We never knew exactly what was going on. We were never even sure if he was all the way injured, if he was out, or if he was training because no one could go to training. And then, now that this is all, it's just still insane to me that even after all of this, he announcing he's out for the season, we just get knee surgery.
Likely out for the season.
Sorry, yes. Thank you for the correction there, Thad Bell.
So he could be back in time to start training for the playoffs.
Right.
3 years in a row. It's just a knock, guys. It's just a knock.
Are we saying that predicting injuries for sporting is like predicting snow, in Missouri? It could be 8 inches. It could be a, dusting. We don't know.
I do love that Vermes uses that word knock like announcers do. That's a thing. And it's a tool for announcers and broadcasters to use to just quickly describe something that they don't know exactly what it is, and just to intentionally be broad. And it is not designed for coaches describing actual injuries of their players in press conferences. That is not what that word is used for.
Yeah, it is now.
I don't know. It's still, we always talk about, I guess I'm the only one that gets antsy about this. It's just so crazy to me, this aspect of MLS and the control over the narrative that most teams have, and especially this team.
What MLS administrator coaches or teaches that art of being vague course before the season starts for all the coaches? Who would that be?
Professor Vermes, I assume.
What was the description they gave for all those injuries that we had, like that 8 people out? What was the description they gave? Lower body injury or something like that?
Oh yeah. That's a USL tactic they used to always use, where it was all lower body injury, upper body injury. And I was like, what?
Oh, that's so good. Well, so Thad, tell me, you're sitting there quietly. Tell me why Sporting KC, or tell me why I'm wrong, or if there is a difference in the way teams control narratives and explain injuries and things like that, and things like that compared to European league.
Well, I think it's actually very similar. I mean, I've seen European leagues to be as vague as possible also, or just outright say player injured and leave it at that. So a lot of it just really depends on the coach and how willing they are to do it.
I guess that's true. And so I guess really the only difference that it comes down to is there are just more ruthless journalists that get better connections and things just leak more often. So teams just have to be more out front, I guess, is kind of where this.
And we're just nice here. I mean,
Well, hey.
I did ask Peter. I said, asked him if he could give more information about Pulido's injury, and he just went into how it was had swelling, and he thought he could live with it, and they did this and that, and it wasn't like hiding something or something went wrong or the staff didn't do something wrong, but that was about all the more detail he gave. But I don't think Sporting's worse though.
Yeah, he does a good job of like answering part of what you asked and then kind of going somewhere else, and then they call on another media member who doesn't follow up because they have their own question loaded ready to go, so they don't dig in on it. Versus like, I feel like if you're sitting in a press room and you could just kind of shout out and say it again or press them on it, or if it was like the NFL where there's so many media members, like they hound them and they find out exact details, versus there's only so many of us and it's like, I'm going to get my one question in. So
yeah, and a lot of it is different since the pandemic. I mean, I'm trying to defend Sporting here in that regard. I don't think they're any worse about it than anybody else. In fact, I think they're actually better about it than a lot of teams. There are teams that are going to be way more open and coaches that are way more open, but it's the way it is right now. And when we can get back to being in person more often, it'll be easier. It's a lot easier to have those questions and follow up and stuff, like you said, when you're in person, be it a scrum after a practice or a presser after a game.
Yeah, so before we go any further, I do want to commend David for muting his mic while he was coughing. Very, very respectful of him to do that. I appreciate that. But hey, isn't the worst thing about this though, guys, all right, you go into the end of the season, you're like, okay, Sporting's 2 players away from being, not just a competitive team, but, MLS Cup competitor. And then something like this happens and you're like, oh, there we are back to where we were.
I was feeling incredibly optimistic going into next year because it felt like, gosh, this team is so good. Add a couple pieces and they're there.
Yeah.
And then now you're like, I think they'll still be competitive. I think they're always going to be competitive. And I think we're all kind of in that camp, it seems like to me. But it's a bummer. It's a bummer. Like I wrote in my piece about it that I think hopefully because Shelton's going to be the guy, right? You're not going to find a guy unless maybe they got somebody up their sleeve. He's got shadow teams all over the world, right? But if it could be like a U22 guy, that's the guy of the future. So we're ready for 2 years from now when Pulido isn't here and we don't have our hopes up that he's going to be great every year. Maybe that's the guy. It might be a little more painful seeing him come into games and not be as good, but if it gets him ready to be great, I'm open to it at such a young age.
Well, can I suggest a theory that Pulido, when he's healthy, is the best player on the field, certainly for us, and in most games, the best player on either team. But is it possible that we just aren't as good with him? Just kind of how, like, the way he drifts in and out of the game, right? He drags players all over the field, and it's one of the things we commend Kyrie for. But in a lot of ways, he's also dragging himself out of the play, right? We haven't had more success with him than we had playing Kyrie. Jeez, bro, don't jump off the ledge. It's going to be fine. But the team is functionally the same. It's uglier, but the results are functionally the same. And so, there's a lot of questions to answer about how we replace him. Who's going to get those 8 goals? But he's been out so frequently, whether it's with national team duty or with injuries, that I'm not sure it's replacing the production so much as replacing the concept of this multi-million-dollar player.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think that the reason the team may not have been better with him on the field is simply because, like you said, he does have a kind of a unique style of play for a striker, or slightly different from what the team has been used to, the way he moves around and drags people out of position and things like that. So maybe it's just simply because he didn't play with the team enough. Maybe after 2 full years of him doing that, maybe the rest of the team figured out how to play around Alan Pulido, or, Vermes tweaked the system to be designed to play around Alan Pulido. So, yeah, I think it all just comes down to that the guy just wasn't able to stay on the field.
Which is sad.
I think there's no arguing he's fantastic when he's out there, right? The stats up until the last few games drug him down a little bit at the end of 2021. He was averaging like a goal and an assist per game, or an assist per game, like at 0.99 or something, with like a month or 2 to go in the season, even though he'd missed half of all possible games he could have played in, give or take.
Yeah. But now, like you said, some of those were penalty kicks. And my dad is one of the people, I don't know if there are other people, but my dad is one that, like, just honestly is not sold on Pulido, has never been sold on him when he's on the field. He's had his few good moments, but every time he's out there, it's like, I'll get excited. Our savior is out there, and he's just like, I'll believe it when I see it. And
a big part of that, though, big part of that is he's been playing injured for the last year,
right,
year and a half. So you really can evaluate him accurately on that.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. And we can wrap up this conversation on this, but he's been playing with an injury, right? Is that what this knee surgery is? Has it been the same nagging injury that he's been dealing with for 2 years now, and then they're getting it fixed? Is that what this is?
Peter said in the press conference yesterday that it was the injury picked up with the Mexican national team at the beginning of 2021. So not the one that messed up the end of 2020. This is, I mean, I don't know if that's a little shot at Tata Martinez or what's going on there, but that's the one he claims it is. And he had told us in a previous presser that he saw the video of Pulido getting hurt on some footage that was provided to him, I assume, by the national team.
I think last year had something to do with the horse collar in Minnesota.
Yeah.
That probably aggravated it, right? Like when he got whatever his name is, DiBasi, took him down so violently.
So can we get confirmation of one question before we go, because this will help us go forward? If we get a roster exception for him, does that give us extra money because of that roster exception? Just give us a roster spot, or what does it do exactly?
So you get a roster spot. You get, if they put him on season-ending injury list, of course, that's the caveat, right?
Yeah.
You get $250,000 towards your salary budget. Now he counts for 612.5, weird MLS numbers, a little over 600,000 against the cap. But then there's a lot of gray, and maybe Thad, you can chime in on this, about do they get to have another designated player? And I think technically they probably can, because if you could fit one into your budget, but then Russell, Pulido, and Kinda are all signed through the next 2 years. So you can't really add a DP unless it's a one-year DP, unless I'm wrong on that. Thad, you correct me.
You don't get another DP slot.
But he's not technically on the roster, right? Because I was even hearing that he doesn't count as an international this year because he's not technically on the roster.
You're right about the international slot, but not the DP slot. From my understanding and from reading the rules, and even what Vermes said in the pressers, you don't get another DP spot. So you could bring in a TAM player, but not a DP.
Stumped him.
I'm accepting that. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't think it's that you get another DP as much as like, he's not technically on your roster, so he's not technically a DP, right? But he still counts against your salary budget for everything minus that extra 250 you get. Maybe they don't have the room for it.
He still counts as a DP. You get 3 DPs, which also screws us for buying one down for having multiple U22 initiative guys too. Right. So they could only have one at the most.
David is our resident lawyer, and I feel like all of this should be coming from his mouth while like banging on a desk and saying it in very lawyery speak is how I wish this was all.
Can I add one more thing on this thing? Because I think what Vermes said in the press conference was something to the effect of, we have 3 DPs. So he was kind of shooting down, we're not going to add another DP. I think I asked him a question about, was the very good contract offer made to Robert Beric going to make him a DP, or was it lower? And he said, no, it wasn't going to make him a DP. We have 3 DPs. But I don't think that means they can't still buy somebody down. I just think they're choosing not to do that. Unless Russell got a raise. If you do the math on his old salary, he could be bought down. He's a DP in name only. TAM.
Yeah, but that's different than getting relief because of Pulido. So
agreed. But I'm just saying it doesn't mean they couldn't add another DP. And if Russell's a DP in name only, they can get 3 U22 players. I guess we'll know if they sign 2 U22 players, we'll know Russell can be bought down.
Yeah, I just doubt that they do that. So even those ones that we've seen as rumors, the center back and the left back, I believe, those guys are probably TAM guys anyway. They didn't seem, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe one of them.
Depends on the transfer fee, right? Like how much the transfer fee plus their salary. And we won't know the salaries until May or June or whatever, and we'll never know the transfer fees. So besides rumors.
Yeah, we'll have to be able to find out eventually. It's just it won't be right up front. So.
Okay.
David, you're going to lawyerly explain this to us?
Look, guys, first of all, I was not a great student. Secondly, I don't know if I could go to more school to understand MLS rules better. I think I would have to be like Don Garber or his son or something to understand these mechanisms, all these rules. Like, I don't know. None of this makes sense. Here's what concerns me is that we seem to have a lot of roster inflexibility, and the roster is not very filled out. And let's say we have 3 DPs. We don't have a lot of mechanisms to bring in more, dynamic players to really help, fill in the roster. And we need 2 left backs. We need at least 1 more right back. We need help at center back. We need help up top. We need at least 1 attacking player up top, if not 2. And so I'm curious where we're going to get those players from. And, Pulido being out more than anything else creates so much inflexibility. We can't move him on his contract. We're certainly not going to sell Gadi. We're certainly not going to sell Johnny. So I don't know how we free up any slots to get the U22 guys. And it's January. The preseason starts in a month?
Right.
No, it starts
17th.
this weekend.
Yeah, next week.
Oh, sorry. It starts next week. So it's a little troubling that we don't have anybody.
Well, speaking of Gadi Kinda and creative players and needing to fill holes that are missing, Gadi Kinda is one of those players that will miss the preseason that is starting next week and potentially the beginning of the regular season. So, Gadi, also knee surgery. Is this one more specific, or is he just the objective knee surgery?
Cleanup.
Actually, I don't even remember if they said exactly what the injury was on that one.
He just said a cleanup in his knee.
Yeah, it's even goofier.
Okay.
It's a cleanup. I guess that's the technical term for it.
Yeah, that's again a fairly common thing for knees is, arthroscopically cleaning it up, trimming up the meniscus, and other stuff. So that is pretty common. It's just sad that it's being now instead of.
That was a good save there, Thad. I thought you were about to lose that word entirely out of your mouth, but you recovered nicely. Well done.
Yeah, it's just one of those words that's tough for me.
So
I think you were trying
Gadi.
to pluralize it there, which was what was getting you. Menisci, maybe. I don't know.
Meniscus.
David, you were talking about they need help up top. Who does Gadi Kinda's absence here at the beginning of the season, who does that give an opportunity to step up, at least as we stand now, before these potential signings that we're going to discuss more here soon?
My hope is that we play Christian Duke, is that this gives Duke an opportunity to break into the team.
I prefer Cam Duke personally.
Sorry,
right.
Cam Duke. Apologies.
You guys, I was going to let him, I just wanted to see how long he would go on it, and then we could have burned him with it later. You should have just let him run.
Does that get me in the fine jar? It's not
Yes,
a mispronunciation.
If you have to ask, yes.
That's a stonewall fine there.
Sorry, Cam Duke, I think is the most like-for-like replacement. So I think best case scenario, we let him play. My nightmare scenario is that we put Jose Maury at the dueling 8 with Remy Voltaire, and we put Rossell at the 6. And then we basically just have 3 not super fast 6s playing in the midfield.
I so agree with you, Dave.
100%.
That is a
Sounds
slow
like a nightmare.
midfield.
No creativity whatsoever.
Remy's got some creativity.
French touch, right?
And I don't know that we saw enough of Maury to really know if he has a lot of creativity, because most we saw him was at the 6-ish spot. So I'll give a little benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah.
Yuri's not really super creative. He can lay those passes out from a distance, kind of like Ilya, but
Do you think that position
midfield.
Sorry, do you think that position will be one of the pending new player signings?
The 6th spot?
The attacking mid, I guess, quote unquote, for this system.
Yeah, probably. I think the priorities are left back, center forward. After that, then the priorities are elsewhere. But it's not like Peter's going to go, okay, I can only sign a left back and then a center back and then a center forward, right? He's going to find people who fit the team mentality, right? The model of how they would play and all that type of stuff, which is understandable. So if he finds a guy that's a 10, a 10/8 that Sporting kind of plays with, he'll sign him. It's just, if they fit in the budget.
Well, and then there's the other aspect of that list that you ran through. The one that you didn't mention is just if the timing works out now, like if they've become available now.
Right.
Because Vermes always talks about how, they've been in communication with this player for 2 seasons and it just hasn't worked out, or the windows haven't worked out properly. And then, it just works out at a weird time and we get 3 attacking midfielders at once.
And then another player we haven't mentioned yet for the midfield is Felipe Hernandez. Before his issues last year, he was actually coming on pretty strong. He had scored a goal or 2, had a couple assists. I don't remember the exact details. I'm sure somebody will correct me. But I mean, when he was starting to look like he deserved to play a fair amount. And then he was gone. So I don't know how fast he could come back. I don't know how well he stayed in shape or what his touch is like. But he's one that could fill in some of that role if he's even close to being what he was the last time we saw him.
So speaking of acquisitions, according to Chad's story, I's need to be dotted, T's crossed. These players are signed, at least a couple of them. What are the odds that these are the guys that we've heard the rumors about?
I think there's probably some fire there when it comes to, I'm sure I'm saying the name wrong, Robert Veloter. There's been multiple stories about him.
Yeah.
So that feels promising, but that's the 3rd center back on the roster probably, right? If this guy gets signed. So I wouldn't be surprised if Thad was saying left back, if Ben Sweat's the guy and they're just going to sign another guy to be his backup or the future or whatever. I don't know if you want to trust a guy coming off ACL that hasn't played in a year as your guy, but he could be the guy. I don't know. And you just bring up like Isaiah LaFleur on a homegrown deal or something like that to fill in the space, but you got to have somebody you trust to put in the game too, because you can't expect Ben Sweat to play 34 games.
And maybe the guys we drafted yesterday are the plan at center back, and we're going to focus on spending money up front. You never know.
I don't take anybody that was drafted as a plan to do something.
It's a possibility that
if one of them works out, I think it was a successful draft. So
yeah, exactly.
But you can't count on those guys being that yet. Not in any way, shape, or form. Not like the old days. You could say, "Oh, we drafted a center back who could be our 3rd center back." Nowadays, you draft a center back. It's
if
maybe
he's the 5th center back.
I totally agree with that. But the way things are going, man, that could be the plan.
And then, in addition to all of these guys that have to be signed, or that we would think should be signed for Sporting, there's at least another 13 guys or 11 guys that have to be signed for SKCII.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, we don't even know the rules of MLS Next Pro to know how do you build those rosters. Can you just play a ton of first team guys down with the second team? Obviously, with injuries, the math doesn't really work out there, right? But they need a lot of players. I'm sure there'll be a lot of academy guys on contracts, just loaned up on amateur deals or whatever.
I've seen people say that you have to have a minimum of 13 players signed to an MLS Next team, that straight signed to them. And then there still may be a limit for the number of academy guys who can play in a game, which drove me crazy if that's the truth. That was a interview I heard on Sirius with somebody. So I don't know if that's true, but
why leave USL if you can't play your academy guys in MLS Next Pro? If it's still limited to 5, like maybe if it's limited to 7 or something, I don't know.
All right. Well, couple of reasons. One, because when you go to Division 3, you don't have to worry about having a big stadium. Swope now works. And 2, if I understand correctly, the USL teams that were in existence were complaining that MLS2 teams didn't pay the expansion fees, and they're up to like $10 million now. So they were asking, if I heard correctly, they were asking MLS2 teams to at least pony up $5 million. So that would have been $5 million out of your pocket for a team that you don't want to play. You don't care about playing at that level anyway. So again, that's stories I've seen in different places now. If that may have played a lot of role into it too. Like if St. Louis came in and wanted a team in USL, they would have had to pay $10 million just to field a reserve team.
MLS kind of wild. I always feel like a little bitter towards the USL that the MLS2 teams kind of saved the league, and now everybody just wants them out. They're like, let's not forget, Swope Park Rangers were in back-to-back championship games. The Red Bulls won a title. Real Monarchs won a couple of years ago. Like, it's not like they've all been hot garbage the whole time. There's plenty of terrible USL championship teams as well, you know.
Yeah, OKC, Loudon, yeah. So, no,
was that
I'm
enough
right with you,
Superdraft?
Chad.
Was that enough Superdraft stuff?
Should we at least mention who got drafted?
Oh, I thought you did say that earlier. Yes, Thad.
I just said I said a couple center
Introduce
backs
them.
got drafted. Isai Easley and Brett St. Martin. Isai Easley played for Grand Canyon University in Arizona, Chad's old home, and then
Fist pumping.
Brett St. Martin from Maryland, so he played for Maryland, Graham Zusi's alma mater. And I want to throw a hat tip to St. Louis University, the Billikens, who had 4 first-round picks in the first 16, and then 2 more in the later rounds. So 6 players drafted from SLU.
But what's so funny about that in my mind is St. Louis City, the MLS team coming in 2023, has got to be sitting back saying, damn, we couldn't get our hands on those guys.
Isai Easley. Did you practice that before you started this? Isai Easley?
No.
You guys know I love a good name, and if that's what we're going by, Isai is destined to be a star.
And I love the fact he's from Hawaii too. So I'm already advocating for a preseason friendly in Hawaii.
I'm down for that. I will be in Hawaii during the preseason.
Look at this fancy crypto guy over here going to Hawaii, Estonia.
Jet setting lifestyle. No, I'm going with my dad. It'll be fun.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do in Hawaii, man?
We're gonna learn to surf. We got some
Get sunburnt.
Some treachery. I will get sunburnt as the ginger here. I will definitely get sunburnt no matter how much sunscreen I put on. Got some hikes planned, and I actually want to look into. I want to find a place to skydive too.
Now we're talking Maui, Big Island. What are we talking?
I'm doing Maui and Oahu.
Nice.
Yes. Now that I've derailed the podcast, the dreams of Hawaii.
This is a Hawaii pod now.
This podcast is brought to you by AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi. Whether you're into watching horror movies from your basement, watching sports from your backyard, or watching trashy reality shows from inside your car that's parked all the way in the driveway so no one in your family judges you, AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi is the best way to watch whatever you want from wherever you are.
Get AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi and add some Wi-Fi square footage to your house. Limited availability in select areas. Go to att.com/hypergig to check eligibility. Coverage requires extenders at additional charge.
Want to give the best gifts without breaking the bank? At Walmart, you'll find something for everyone on your list, whether they've been naughty or nice. We don't just have everything for the holidays, we have the perfect thing for yours.
Graham Zusi was just mentioned. We need to talk Graham Zusi. The Soren Petro tweeted today that, as expected, did you guys see that he started that with "as expected"? That little inside joke of ours. I'm not sure anyone else is familiar with that, but I thought that was funny. As expected, Graham Zusi is they're nearing a deal with Graham Zusi to bring him back for another year. So, how is anyone opposed to this? Does anyone want to be brave enough to take this stance to oppose San Zusi on this podcast?
I think there's only one person here that might take that one up. Mr. Greenwald?
No, here's the thing. He had a good year. Right dollar amount. If he doesn't cost us too much against the cap for another year, maybe even another year with an option for a second, I'm fine with it. You know, Zusi has value in the locker room, and he has value to the club as like an ambassador, for his charitable work and all that, and merchandise sales and whatever. If he is willing to take a pay cut and come back, on a 1+1, I think it's a good deal for us. I have zero problems with that.
He played well last year, man. He earned what he made last year, I believe. I mean, yeah, he could be cheaper, but he played well last year.
He deserved a new contract for that goal in the playoffs, that one goal.
Well, and
the 10 long switches against Vancouver, just ripping them apart in the first round, gave us a playoff win.
And that my point, it's more so like just the value of the position, right? Zusi makes so much more than the other right backs in the league. And while he might be better, I'm not sure he's so
that much better.
He justifies the difference in cost.
Yeah.
And when our roster needs as much flexibility as possible, especially since our multi-million-dollar striker's out, I'd really like to see him under 500 rather than, what was he making, 800, 700, 800?
Yeah, and
700 and change, yeah.
So just for that debate purpose now, the roster flexibility, I don't think dollars is actually the biggest issue at this point, because they have Gam from Busio sale. They have released Ilya, who was making $1 million. If Graham and Roger come back on a little bit lower contracts, that's again extra additional money saved. Your roster inflexibility is just that you have the 3 DPs at this point and a limited amount of international slots. I think that's where your biggest roster flexibility is, and I do believe that is also why Peter foresaw the issue with Pulido, foresaw the issue with the pandemic blooming again and all this other stuff, and he went heavily in on getting guys from other teams this year with Yuri and Ben, and then keeping Kindle around also. So he basically tried to pull in guys, and then also with the attempt to get Barrage. So I think that was all part of, he knew, and he was trying to manipulate and get as much guys from within the league at that time.
Can I drop one more Twitter bomb? Because I think we're all on agreement. Graham Zusi should be back 1-1, maybe a little less money.
Drop your Twitter bomb.
Andrew Wiebe, I'm sure you guys saw this today, said, quote, "I'd watch Josh Sargent on loan at Sporting Kansas City."
Oh, interesting.
Thoughts?
I don't
think that's interesting. I think that literally is the opposite of interesting. That the statement is the most boring statement ever. Now, the idea of Josh Sargent at Sporting Kansas City is different. That is interesting. But
so you're saying Wiebe is really boring? Is that what you're saying?
The fact that Wiebe's saying he wouldn't turn off the TV if Sporting KC signed this player is not interesting.
He has to tweet a lot. There's a lot of tweets. You don't have time to put as many sentences in there. He's not using all 240 characters.
Which is a good thing.
Well, I'm all for bringing a ginger in town. So,
of course you are.
How
old is Sargent now?
Probably like 21, 22. He's still pretty young.
He's not that young. Everyone thinks he's young. He's not that young.
Yeah, he's not.
How about he's 27?
He's
what?
22.
No.
20. He's 21. Oh, look at this. His birthday is my birthday. February 20th. Turned 22. So in your face, I was exactly right. I think everybody who said I was wrong pays a fine.
I agree. I was agreeing with you there, Chad.
Why isn't he progressing?
Because he's 21 and 22 and been with wrong teams, man. It was stupid to go to freaking Norwich.
Yeah, Norwich real bad, and Werder Bremen was also not very good.
No,
it's like Pepe going to Augsburg, or however you pronounce their name. Like, you're going to be on a terrible team. Is that good for you? I'm not sure.
I think Augsburg is actually a better option for Pepe than I'm sure it's a better option than Norwich for Sargent, but
they're in a relegation battle. That's it. Buzio's in a relegation battle. Well, I mean, he's not really. They've been doing great, but he could theoretically be in a relegation battle.
They've been doing great.
Well, great for
they're not in the
newly
zone,
promoted Serie A team, right?
Yeah, they're above the red line right now, aren't they?
They were last I looked, but they're not that far up. So,
but also, why would Norwich loan him out to us, and how much would it cost us? As bad as Norwich is, the Premier League pays, some real salaries. So even though he's a reserve player on a bad Premier League team, how much does that cost us on loan? And does that make him a DP? Because he's probably going to be close.
I would assume it'll be like a Winston Reed situation where they have to eat quite a bit of the salary for us to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe they think it'll be good for his headspace being close to home. St. Louis kid.
And he hasn't even been playing lately, if I understand correctly. I don't follow him real close, but if I was Peter, I'd be on the phone to them and to Hoppy and to Gioacchini, to all their teams and their agents saying, hey, we could play the shit out of you right now.
Yeah, and they need that before the World Cup to get seen, get informed.
Yeah.
Well, I could get down with some Gioacchini in a Sporting KC jersey.
Yeah, so any of those guys, man, could use a little boost and stability. And I'm gonna flip back it again for a second because I apologize, but that the roster flexibility. One thing with bringing in the DP that we talked about earlier that they could not do, if you get to the summer window, you could potentially bring in a DP in name only because you only happen to pay half the salary and it wouldn't be a DP salary, and it could carry over to the next year when you could potentially buy somebody off. That would be an option that I think could work, but it wouldn't happen until the summer window.
Good thought, Thad.
Yeah, presuming they buy someone out or sell somebody between Pulido, Russell, and Kinda, right?
Yeah, they would have to do something for the next year, but again, with salaries and hopefully salary cap going up each year, the cost of a DP becomes more manageable to buy down because of the way. Yeah, so I don't want to go into like ton of details because I would screw it up. And
because you guys haven't been going into details so far at all, have you?
No,
not at all. I mean, we're just skimming the surface. Have you read the roster rules?
Really, this is like high level, man.
Okay, well,
would you like us to get into the weeds? Come on,
I'm
Tim.
gonna
Let's
stop
pull up the
Chad and
roster rules
Thad
now.
before they keep nerding out on all this because there's one last thing that I want to talk about that's fun.
Before we move off of this, can we go to Sargent real quick for a second?
Yeah,
Sergeant
Chad,
Gioacchini, whoever it is.
You get 2 more minutes of nerding out on MLS.
Oh, I only want 15 seconds.
Yeah,
How mad are you going to be if they get one of those guys and then Kyrie Shelton starting above him every week?
Kyrie's a hard man to replace.
He would deserve it.
Yeah, exactly.
If he's starting above him, he would deserve it.
Vermes will play the best man.
Yep.
Named Kyrie Shelton. Okay, moving on. Benny Feilhaber is back in a more official way, in a bigger title, I guess, this time, and more front-facing way.
It's not like he was gone.
I know.
He'll be the most quotable coach in the league.
I know, but I want just for Cody's sake of like 5 years ago, I want him to know that Benny Feilhaber is Paulo Nagamura's successor as the head coach of SKCII. That is just such a fun sentence, and it makes me happy.
I'm happy to. I will tell you one thing that I think will be good about this. I mean, I love it. I'm all for Benny. He's one of my favorites ever. My wife came running into my office today to tell me this while I'm working. Why didn't you tell me this? And she goes, I may have to pay attention to Sporting Kansas City too. And I was like, there you go. You just brought some people in.
There we go. Now we know why they did it. Now we know that it's all a publicity stunt. No, so does this mean that he was coaching in the academy last year? Does this mean he's impressed in that role, or was this a predetermined thing and he was given that role last year to prepare him for this when Nagamura left?
I don't think it means any of the above.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't think it was predetermined because you did not necessarily know Naga was going to leave at that point. Benny mentioned today that I can't think of his name, but the assistant under Naga would have been in line for it, but he opted to go somewhere else.
Chris Martinez, maybe?
Yeah, something like that, but yes. So I think he was an option to do that. And when he left, that just opened it up for Benny to take it. So I think Benny would have been satisfied with staying the U17 coach for, longer in order to gain experience. But with that option, with it opening up, he was a logical candidate.
Remind me, guys.
Oh, go ahead. Remember.
What was Feilhaber's initial role? Because it wasn't really what it is now.
No.
When he joined the team.
He was essentially when he first came back to Sporting as a coach, he was an assistant for the first team.
Yeah, he was on the technical staff.
Technical staff, yeah.
And then, but he was also the academy, the U17 academy head coach, right?
That was later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So initially he was just on this staff. Then he became a U17 coach, still on the staff essentially. And then now the SKCII coach.
He talked about it on, I want to say, the Sporting Kansas City show or something. I don't know if I'm allowed to plug other podcasts on our podcast, but he was saying how he spent like 2 months with the first team and then he was like involved in everything. Then he was spending a lot of time with the academy. Then he was no longer sitting on the sidelines. He was up in like not the press box, but like a box during the game, coach's box, whatever it is up there. So he's kind of moved around to try to, I think, just learn a lot of things because, he had what, like half a season of UCLA under his belt before coming over here, or maybe a whole year.
We can mention other podcasts. Is the rule apparently is that other podcasts can't talk about us.
That's true. I've never heard it. You know why, Cody? Because you never say the name of our podcast. So good job getting that in to start this one. It's a good trend. Can I say something about the SKCII job? I think maybe this is not a popular opinion, but I think that's maybe not the most attractive job in the world. Like Naga didn't speak. I think he got a lot from it, but I think it's so restrictive, right? You have to do the 4-3-3. You have to play the players that the first team wants you to play. Guys going down on loan, stuff like that. There's a lack of freedom, but then also a guy like Naga, a guy like Feilhaber, who's never had any head coaching experience, either of them get to jump straight into being a head coach, and Naga's now turned that into forever orange, I guess. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think that's well known. Like Dos Santos apparently was not aware of it when he took the role, but yeah, I mean that's the obvious part of this job, is that it is an unattractive job for a head coach who wants to prove himself, because it's so hard to do so. You're literally there to be a tool for the first team, and it's not about results or anything like that. So, I think it's almost at this point, it would almost be so well known that like that's how Nagamura got that job, was that the expectation for results for what he was doing wasn't necessarily the bottom line for success.
Well, I think that's going to change though, right? Because we're not in USL anymore. And so now that we're going to be in, I'm not going to call it, the new name is stupid.
I hate, oh my God. I listened to Chad say it earlier twice and I wanted to punch him in the face. I hate the name.
It was probably just my face. I have a punchable face.
It's terrible. But the thing is, all of them are developmental teams, right? Every single team in the league is an MLS team.
Nope.
No, Rochester, right? Plus Jamie Vardy, the Fighting Jamie Vardys, and
Rochester rejects.
It's developmental, right? So now instead of competing against teams like Indy 11, who are actually out there to win something, it's a developmental job.
They added pro at the end of the name, you see, because that means it's professional. You see, that's why they did it.
But they're going to have a lot of amateur players on their roster still.
Here's what
no different than when they were two teams.
So, yeah,
is that I listened to the podcast formerly known as BSI. Benny has a good mind for the game. He has a very interesting view of how the game should be played, and how a guy who seemed to play so much on instinct and just being creative in a way that you can't necessarily teach or replicate, he does seem to really understand and like the academic side of the game. He seems to really like the tactical chess match between managers. And that's not to suggest that Naga didn't, but I think Benny's going to really thrive in this role.
That would please me.
I think he will still be, as Chad talked, he'll be very restricted in what he's allowed to do, which players and all that. But I think where the difference comes in is he'll be able to communicate in game, like, this, you can do better at this and you can do better at that. This is how you can break them down. And because I love Naga as a player, but he was not a Benny in that regard. Naga was a play hard, I'll kill you if I need to, play with blood on your face kind of guy, right? Benny was the creative, cheeky, do whatever it takes, and the other side of that same coin. So,
well, and David, what you were saying, that's interesting you say that, because I've always thought players like that are just, God-given, if you will. They just have this innate ability and just innate creativity that they're just born with this and just better at this than other people. That kind of player, I don't think you wouldn't think would translate into being a good coach, because they had to learn less. They didn't have to try as hard. It just, more of this came innate to them. And it's like, why don't you understand this? Well, it'd be more difficult for that kind of a player to put it into words and explain how to do these things. But yeah,
I see your point, but like at the same time, I I hate this. Like, they're a natural this, they're a natural that. Like, they work so obsessively hard usually to get good at these things. Could you get a head start because of genetics and things? Sure. But like, they're putting in some effort to become the person they are and to fight through and grind through. And it's, yes, he was on the US men's national team at a pretty young age, right? And he's like kind of goes to Europe and all these things. And he's got that like that level of some of these young kids that we're sending over there now. But I hate they're a natural. It's like Buzio knowing at like 12 years old he wants to be a professional soccer player. I'm 38. I still don't know what the hell I want to do with my life. Like, I'm figuring it out. Maybe tomorrow I'll figure it out.
Magic
Professional
Johnson,
soccer player.
Magic Johnson, great coach or great player, terrible coach.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of
one example.
Other part of Feilhaber is, he's always had that sarcastic, clever sense of humor, and it's hard to be tough. It takes smarts to be, funny like he is, and he's ultra competitive. So I think he will have a little bit of trouble maybe translating those thoughts that he has in his head to his players. And that will be his biggest challenge. But I think he's brilliant overall.
Wayne Gretzky.
The real key is if we're going to have a good fitness coach, because Benny notoriously doesn't like running. So I can't imagine he's going to force his players to run.
Again, he ain't got a choice in that.
Yeah, someone else will be there telling them to run for sure, right?
I'm running out of names. I'm sorry.
You came up with 2, Cody. Congratulations. You've proven your point. I don't
Lampard.
disagree with your general
Frank Lampard,
premise.
got a soccer one.
I just hate the natural line.
No, I mean, I think Cody's got a point, but I just don't think it's a rule. So, I mean, there's definitely people who come by it, the wonderkind kind of thing, who they can do anything. I just don't think they translate into great coaches. But I don't think Benny's quite in that same category.
Diego Maradona. Boom, mic drop. That's it. I win it with that one, right?
He could have been a great coach if it wasn't for the cocaine.
Pesky cocaine.
How is Steven Gerrard doing at the helm right now?
Aha, boom. Look at this. Now we're on a roll here. Now we're rolling for sure. Roy Keane, got another soccer player.
Aren't Chelsea doing like fantastic? I'm drawing a blank on who their coach is, though.
Am I reading from a list that I found online? Yes, I am.
Ted Lasso, come on, man.
Wait, what? Ted Lasso?
You don't have to be a great player to be a great coach, right?
I guess that's.
Didn't they get relegated? Spoilers.
Ooh. Yeah,
Season 1.
Yeah. That's a fine. I think if you say spoiler after you giving the spoiler, that's another fine. So David's up to 2 on this. You're not starting off the year well.
All right,
no, the first one was a double because he had to ask. So he's up to 3.
All right, spoiler. Where are we going to be at next week, guys? Let's spoil it for everybody.
We've already done this. Thad recorded our first ad for it, remember?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we need to do it again, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear it. Have you been practicing your ad delivery?
No, but why would I practice that? Why do I practice?
It's going to be a big year for us, Thad. We're going to have advertisers. We need someone to be a good ad read.
I will read this again, although it's now outdated because it's no longer the discount.
Well, don't read the whole thing again. Just tell the people what's next week.
Tell the people.
We are excited to be part of Podcast Row at the 2022 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Kansas City this January. Convention is the ultimate event for soccer coaches and those who work in the game. Rekindle your passion through presentations, on-field demonstrations, exhibits, and events for coaches at every level. Whether you're attending alone or bringing the whole coaching staff, there's no better place to learn, network, and experience all aspects of the game. Register for the convention now. It is next week in Kansas City, Bartle Hall. We will be there on Podcast Row. There will be tons of things to do. There's a Kansas City Comets event or game at the T-Mobile Center on January 22nd. They will be playing the Tacoma Stars. It will be.
This is genuine excitement from Thad Bell. more so than he does normally on the podcast. He's excited about the coaches convention. We all are. It's gonna be fun.
And hey, we're gonna get some crazy interviews with some crazy people. We're gonna have some crazy fun.
I've been going down the list. I'm been trying to find some that I think would that we might be able to get. There's some big names that is on the list, but I don't know if we'll be able to get them. but I'm working on at least a couple people, but I need to figure out when we're going to be there and all that. So even if we don't have a scheduled one, man, I'm just going to grab people randomly walking by. Hey, you look like a coach. Where do you coach at? Come here.
I think I want to bring a soccer ball and just see what coach can juggle the longest, but coaches only. We don't want just guests showing up and doing this.
We should try to make sure they don't have like soccer type shoes on too, because it makes it harder.
And then if they go too long, we start throwing things at them or asking them annoying soccer media questions.
Throw paper airplanes.
Bring the chips and salsa.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I forgot about the chips and salsa.
Thad, how about you leave us with something prophetic for the first pod of 2022?
I know everybody is worried about Sporting Kansas City right now, but there will be games. We will be passionate about those games. We will have joy. We will have sadness, but that's like every friggin' year. So it's about the journey. It's not about who starts the damn this season.
All right, good man.
Don't seem so tough, and 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Supporters strong have all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking.